Thick atmosphere, crisp combat, haunting score, and grotesque enemies. Everything that made Blasphemous a cult hit remains, along with some very smart new additions and refinements. Unfortunately, a lot of issues from the first still remain that hold Blasphemous 2 back from being a leap forward instead of just the evolution of the series that it is, but as the saying goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. On the surface, you can see that the visuals have been overhauled. It still retains the 16-bit art style, but now they feel much later in the generation. They are sharper and they give the world more depth and personality, but the big change is the new weapon system that allows you to carry 3 different weapons. This solves one of the major issues from the first, as using the same weapon, retracing your steps, and fighting the same enemies grew a little repetitive by the end. Even with plenty of returning foes from the first game, the big change to the Blasphemous formula adds variety and freedom to how you approach combat. However, the true genius of the new 3-weapon system is how much it plays an integral part in the traversal and puzzle solving. Figuring out which tool is needed for what job and switching between them on the fly leads to some diabolical platforming sections. The story does feel a little overcomplicated at times to follow every aspect of the lore, but the core is easy enough to follow and the game does a good job of giving you what you need to know and where you need to be heading at most times. This doesn't eliminate the backtracking, but it does eliminate the aimlessness of your journey, as you always have a vague direction you should be heading. If exploring every nook and crevice is your preferred option, then as with most Metroidvanias with new skills and new abilities, there are plenty of areas to explore, even if you've already traversed that area before. There are loads of secrets to be found by exploring that is going to reward you with currency, upgrade points, and items you likely won't know what to do with right away. The gripes are minor, but the top 5 would be the frustrating stun lock that remain, which can constantly kick you when you are down, and this is one of the worst parts of the game. The other 4 gripes are basically nitpicking in comparison. The reused enemies with plenty of returning ones from the first game, the minimal execution animations was a shame because they emphasized the horror of the world. The time between major upgrades can feel a tad bit long, and the limited ability to parry most bosses. If you loved Blasphemous, then you will adore the sequel. If you've never played the original, Blasphemous 2 is a much easier recommendation than the first, despite a few issues that still do linger. The changes and refinements, mainly the 3-weapon system, go a long way in keeping the game feeling fresh in both the combat and the exploration, which are core pillars of a good Metroidvania. Add this to an already solid foundation from the first, and Blasphemous 2 is a must-play for any fan of the genre.